We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
From the hills of Strawberry Canyon, I'm Coin Dang, and this is the Golden Bear Cast. Let's go. Go Bears.
And welcome back to another episode of the California Golden Bear Cast, a part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Andy is not here today. It's just me. Sadly, timing could not work out with Andy. But we do have a special guest on, and this is one of those cool episode series things that we've wanted to start for a while, which is just getting on really cool people that we happen to know via Twitter and social media. And if you didn't know by the title, we have Mr. Ed Quinn with us, a TV president amongst us on the pod. I am honored, sir. How you doing, Ed?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on. I love the passion that you guys are, pouring into your Cal football fandom, and it's nice seeing these sort of little worlds grow. The podcast world, the blog world, the Twitterverse, the Instagram, and so it allows all us Cal fans to sort of find each other.
Well, I mean, we got to start off with just the insanity of college football that's happened over the last 48 hours. Like, where do you stand on everything that's happened? What's been the most shocking move and things that you've seen over the last 48 hours? Just give me your takes.
Look, I know this is going to be hard to hear for a lot of Cal fans. Obviously, every season, the only game we need to win is the big game. The second game that we need to win is the USC game. They're the evil empire. However, this hire is the best thing that could have happened to the Pac-12. If you've noticed, you could get into the whole Larry Scott failure to launch of the Pac-12 network and the money we've lost and the ground we've lost to the SEC and the Big Ten and the Big 12 as far as TV revenue and that sort of thing. The one main issue is recruiting. And at the beginning of this year, and there's any Cal fans out there or any Pac-12 fans, Petros Papadakis, who was a Cal recruit and then, had some personal issues and decommitted and then ended up, playing for USC. He's got an amazing radio show, one of the biggest radio shows in Southern California called the Petros and Money Show. You can find it on iHeartRadio, and he does a college football whip around, mainly about the Pac-12, before and after every weekend. And at the beginning of the season, he was really sounding a lot of alarms that if you looked across the college football landscape, it was something like 5 of the 6 top teams in the country had quarterbacks from California. Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State. I believe there was a couple others. It's an arms race, and we have fallen way behind. And when you have big national blue blood programs, and that's what USC is on the West Coast. Oregon, maybe to a slight lesser extent, they've kind of blown up in the Phil Knight era, but you need to have big marquee programs for television eyeballs, television revenue, and recruits. There is no reason for all of these recruits to be going to the South and to the East and to the Midwest. All it's going to take is it could happen just in the transfer portal. I mean, as soon as USC reboots, the players, even the rivals in high school, it's like, why am I going to go to Alabama or Louisiana or Georgia when I can? Yeah, maybe the 5-star is going to USC. So the 4-star goes to UCLA. And if you look back to like the Pete Carroll era, when Pete Carroll was just basically getting every national recruit he wanted, what started happening across the board? What happened to Cal? You got the Deshaun Jacksons who were commits and were like, nah. You had the Marshawn Lynches who said, yeah, I could go to SC, but I'd rather go to Cal. I mean, high tides raise all boats, and I really feel this Coach Riley hiring is a seismic shift.
I mean, that's the cold hard facts version of it. I think a lot of people don't realize that it's bound to hopefully, just make people realize that we're going to have to start spending some money and start competing at a higher financial level if we want to compete in the Pac-12 alone. Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Those are the facts, and it's good.
But you look like this season, hey, Cincinnati, I bet Cincinnati's got a budget close to ours.
Yeah.
They've gone undefeated. They built a great program. They're pretty much, and they got a tough game against Houston, but, they get by that. They're going to be in the college football playoff. Pac-12 hasn't been in the playoffs since when? Like Washington? 4 or 5 years ago? It's you have to look at this nationally. It's a big deal. It'll be probably pretty frustrating some seasons. Trust me, everybody who was around for the Tedford era, everybody who was around like I was around for when Washington was winning national championships and we were just coming in second place. It's the Don James era at Washington. I mean, it's tough, but especially in this new age of the players being able to get paid on their likeness and the huge TV revenues and contracts, and hopefully the playoff going to 8 games. This is a great week for the Pac-12. It really is. It may take a few years for everybody to get up to speed, but because it all comes down to recruiting, it all comes down to the players. And a lot of these kids want to play it close to home. Their moms want to come see them play. I mean, I don't know if this is true, don't get me wrong, but I heard rumors that Najee Harris was coming to Cal. And it was only because we fired Dyke so late, we didn't know who the new coach was, that he ended up, because he was enrolling early, and he went early to Alabama. But, he's from Antioch. Of course, he was going to the NFL. Doesn't matter where he plays. His mom wants to see him, wants to drive for 45 minutes and see him play every weekend. It's a big deal. And I don't wish SC all the success in the world, but I'm really thankful they made this home run hire.
Well, I mean, so I guess we can get into your Cal football fandom. Like, how into the weeds of Cal football are you, just like on a weekly or daily basis? Like, are you one of those like that follow recruiting like all the time? Or are you just looking at the headlines and just making sure you're in the know of anything that's happening? Like, where do you stand?
I mean, I'm not gonna, try and like go up against you guys. I mean, you guys have much more knowledge. Look, I don't like that many sports. That's the reality of it. I don't really ever watch the NFL. I haven't seen an NBA. I love that baseball exists. My dad was the #1 baseball player in the nation his senior year, but I haven't watched an entire baseball game, and I don't know when. No interest in the NBA. I have a few niche sports that I love, and I love college football, and I love my California Golden Bears. So, I subscribe to the, all the blogs, and I get all the emails and the updates. And, my Cal fandom, I guess, starts with my grandmother on my mother's side. I'm fifth generation Bay Area. All my ancestors came from the gold rush, in 1840s. 1850s, and my grandmother grew up on Geary and 40th in San Francisco. She graduated from Cal in 1930, So every day she would take a trolley down to the ferry, a ferry across the bay, and the trolley up University Avenue, as a woman graduating from Cal in 1930. My father was a professor at Cal for 27 years. I grew up on the campus. I have a real, this is Joe Roth week, and I have a real affinity for all the Joe Roth throwback jerseys. I'm so proud of Under Armour and what they've done, really, branding the Joe Roth game. And hopefully we wear those throwback unis this weekend. Yeah, I mean, I grew up, like on the Berkeley campus, and as my earliest memories. I mean, I don't really remember the Joe Roth era. I kind of remember the Chuck Muncie. There's stuff, but I mean, I was like 7, 8. So my dad and I listened to Joe Starkey call the play. We were in the Berkeley Hills. We were in my living room. And, Cal lost again, and it was awful. I made that field goal. And the next thing I know, my father and I are both up. He's reading, and I don't know what I was doing, sitting on the couch, just despondent. And the next thing I know, he and I had both run across our living room, and we're literally standing in the speakers listening to that, infamous Joe Starkey call. So it's, and then I didn't want to go to Cal. I wanted to go to Santa Barbara. I wanted to go to Southern California. And then I got, they call it now a recruited walk-on. I ended up becoming a recruited walk-on for the football team under Joe Cap. So I ended up, I was maybe going to go to UCLA. And my dad sort of looked at me and he goes, look, if you're going to go to UCLA, you should go to Cal. If you want to go do something different and go to Santa Barbara, then go do that. But, and so, yeah, that's kind of, I was also taking a look at Navy and maybe Princeton. But, yeah, that's how I ended up at Cal. Best decision I ever made. And so that's kind of my Cal fandom.
So did you play football and rugby, or when did that transition happen?
So when I got to Berkeley, they just said, look, start eating. They thought I was like 230 and I was like 210. And we had a lot of big recruits. I played the Catholic Athletic League at St. Mary's in Berkeley, Lorenzo Alexander's. So, and there was a guy named Braxton Banks at Moreau. There was a kid, Christian something or other, at De La Salle, and our running back, Sean Page, were all big national recruits. And I had some really, really great games blocking for Sean and some big hits. And, we had Lou Holtz in the stands because Braxton ended up going to Notre Dame. And so, yeah, we ended up, I ended up, meeting with Joe Cap and decided to go to Cal. And then I rushed a fraternity that was a lot of rugby guys. And they were like, dude, in the spring, you got to. And then some of these guys, there were like 3 or 4 football players, and they played rugby in the spring. And that's kind of how Jack Clark built, he kind of like would sort of, kind of poach these, football players who maybe were, second, third string, great special teams guy. Obviously, the play, when you see the play, you're like, how are these guys doing all these amazing laterals? That's how they did it. They were all rugby players. So the next thing I know, I started playing rugby, and wow, I got hurt a lot. I think my freshman year, I broke both my fingers. I broke my pinkies. I broke a pinky, and I was still trying to play. And I had the ball in my left hand, and I was getting tackled, and I didn't want to put my right hand down to brace my fall because my right pinky was broken. So I fell onto my left pinky and then broke my left pinky. I remember being at the Cal hospital, and the guy's like, "Do you gonna fight?" And I'm like, "No, I was playing rugby." They go, "How'd you break both your pinkies? Like, that doesn't make any sense." I'm like, "Here they are." And then the next year up in UC, and then the Bruce Schneider era started. I was trying to then I'm standing there just like lifting weights, like waving at them. They have no idea who I am. They didn't really seem like they had any interest who I am. What it was. So, I just kept playing rugby, but then my shoulders started flying out of their sockets, and at UC Davis, I dislocated my right shoulder. It was pretty gruesome, and the ref started actually vomiting on the field. And Jack Clark is looking at the referee with such disgust and disdain. They popped my shoulder back in, but I had big surgery on my left shoulder in high school to get me to play my senior year, and then I couldn't go through the surgery again. So my career's kind of over. Man,
that's an eventful Cal athletic history you got there.
It kind of was, I guess. I mean, part of me, if I had to do it all over again, I would have, really made more of an effort to sort of, run the course and play some football. I would have loved to play for Bruce Schneider. Those were some amazing years and stuff. So, but you know what? You get to college and you kind of go where your momentum takes you. And who knows if I'd be where I am today if I had, chosen differently. When I graduated from college, I was a free agent for the world. I could have done, what was I going to do? And so that was kind of led me on a great path to where I am today.
Well, I mean, let me ask you because that's you when you were in college. Let's say we transported you to modern day, right? Like you're on campus right now. You're a rugby player. Maybe you're playing football. If you could sign an NLI deal right now, if you were in Berkeley, where would be your number one thing? Like, what's the one thing you would want to sign for? Is there anything you'd want to sign for?
You mean like a corporation?
It doesn't matter. I mean, we asked who did we ask? We asked some other guys about this, and they were like, I'd love to be like, Taco Bell Cantina that's on Durant, or Top Dog, or La Burrita. Well,
I mean, if we're trying to get a lifetime sponsorship, I mean, like, look, is there still Blondie's Pizza, or does it close? I know it's moved like 3 times. Does Blondie still exist?
I think it's different owners and they changed the name, but it's the same recipes and all that. It's called Abe's now.
I grew up on Telegraph Avenue. Literally, there was a place called Silver Ball Gardens above. I think it's above the pizza place. Might be still Laval's. I don't know what it was, but I mean, we would go down to Berkeley with a pocket full of quarters, and you would save. And that's back when a slice was $1 maybe. So as much as I love Blondie's Pizza, if I'm getting a lifetime sponsorship, it's going to be Top Dog. After the game or before the game or at some point on Saturday, I will be hitting Top Dog. That to me, nothing's more Berkeley than Top Dog. And then on like knowing what I know now and understanding sort of national media, I would much what could be better than being an 18-year-old sponsored by, say, Ford or General Motors or Levi's or a big national brand, which is something that I hope I haven't, because of COVID, I haven't been up to see the coaches and see the players. I think it was 2019. I was up there for the Life After Ball program, but in this new era of college football, I sure hope they're starting to target the big brands. I've seen Chase, working his Instagram and he has some really good, good sponsors, but it's the Wild West. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess I got to follow up with that. What is your Top Dog order?
Bratwurst.
A bratwurst.
Yeah, it's the brat. I know it's not the most. I mean, I love the top dog too, but yeah, I'm not a spicy guy, and I love the brat. I just do it. I don't know. It just tastes different, standing there.
It is.
Downtown Berkeley. I gotta admit. How about yours? What's yours?
You know what? I go all over the place. The Hot Link is one of my favorites there. But the Top Dog is always just a classic, with a little bit of mustard and some of their onions and a little bit of ketchup. Yeah. Like you can't beat that. It's pretty unbeatable.
No, you can't. No, I want to say the last couple of times I've been there, I do a brat and a top. And so I kind of walk out double fisted, just like, who's the happiest guy in the world? Me. So.
Well, I mean, let me advance the timeline a little bit. Like, so you played rugby, you did all that, and then you transitioned into becoming an actor. Like, where was that? Like, you talk about being a free agent in the world. Like, where did that come in? Like, from doing all that athletic stuff at Berkeley.
Well, so I was only taking. I mean, I don't know what the unit situation is now, but I was taking like 13 units, taking the minimum because I was practicing and doing that kind of stuff. And also, Berkeley's hard. I mean, I was a great student. I mean, I got into Cal, I got into UCLA, but when you get on campus, you look around, you go, wow, I was one of the smartest guys in my high school. I'm like one of the dumbest guys in the cafeteria right now. This is terrifying. and Berkeley, what people don't understand is also really difficult. I mean, I think when I remember my freshman orientation, they said 60% of you are going to fail out. So I ended up going 4.5 years, and in the summer before and it was just great because I got an extra fall, so I actually got 5 football seasons. So anybody out there, any young students out there thinking like, oh, I got to get don't go so fast. Give yourself that one extra semester. Get that one extra football season. This was Bruce Schneider's heyday, so it was a celebration. I'm a big surfer. I was surfing Ocean Beach. A lot of guys from Southern California who I was at school with had modeling books, and I was a valet out in Orinda, a place called Casa Orinda, and I was making $4.95 an hour, for my paycheck, and then tips and stuff, which was a great job. These guys would go over to San Francisco and get $150 an hour for like Mervyn's and Macy's and May Company. I mean, it was insane. Sometimes they get booked for whole days. And as a student, it was just a shocking amount of money. But I mean, coming from Berkeley, I knew nothing about entertainment. I certainly knew nothing about fashion. So I didn't even know how this business works. They just had all these books full of pictures, and they got to be models, and that was it. This photographer came up to me at Ocean Beach and said, "Hey, I take some pictures, yada yada yada." Now, San Francisco late '80s is pretty rough. Yeah, I think I think it was a coin flip. This sounds like a really bad Lifetime movie about how you get sex trafficked or kidnapped or something horrible is going to happen to you. Hey, you want to go take some photos in the Tenderloin? But I kind of in the back of my head said well, Jimmy and Art do really well with this stuff, so maybe I should investigate this. And so I did, and I got signed with a big agency for San Francisco called Look Models. And it was really amazing that last semester because I was, working and I was getting these little jobs, supplementing my income from Casa Orinda, and doing fashion shows and going to crazy parties. And all my friends were ecstatic that I was doing this because we were all of a sudden going to these cool parties in San Francisco as seniors in college. And then I was going to do an internship with Coldwell Banker in I thought I was going to be pre-law. I thought I was going to go to law school. Then I decided to go into commercial real estate. And I kind of was had a couple weeks left, and I had to get out of my apartment and go become an adult. And the phone rang, and it was my agent from San Francisco and my agent from Los Angeles. And they'd sent my photos to Europe. And they said, "Hey, you're booked into the shows in Paris, Milan, and Barcelona. You just have to get there." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And they're like, yeah. And then, remember, this is pre-cell phone, pre-internet, pre-everything. So, I mean, I have no idea what they're talking about. And they're just saying yeah, you are booked. You have bookings over there. Can you get a plane ticket? I called my parents, and my dad had just done a lecture tour on the old TWA Airlines, and he had a free ticket. And he goes, "Well, look, we didn't know what to get you for graduation. Do you want to just take this ticket?" And I'm like, "That sounds fantastic." And he goes, "How long are you going to be gone for?" I go, "I have no idea. Could be 3 days, could be 3 weeks. I have no idea. This will probably burn out." And, I called the Coldwell Banker guys, and they're like, "Yeah, sounds great, buddy. Go knock yourself out." And I ended up being there for 7 months. Literally arriving, though, in Barcelona with an address written on a piece of paper. I'm trying to, my Spanish is not great. I'm trying to find a taxi cab. Everything's wildly expensive, and I don't know where I'm going. And I ended up spending the better part of 2.5 years in Europe. And what became really apparent really quickly was that I was not a very good model. I was still kind of fat. I was kind of a newborn giraffe, I mean, and it finally culminated with Gianni Versace pulling me aside at the show saying, "Darling, listen to me. You are not a model. You are not beautiful. You are handsome. You are an actor. I know an agency in Roma. I think you go to Roma and you make us some movies." I was like, if I'm going to go make movies, it's not going to be in Rome. I'm going to go back to LA, and I'm going to and there are a lot of guys who started, as air quote models. And there are some guys who were serious models, and they made good money, and they I had friends. I mean, they were world famous models. I was not one, and I was not going to be one. But I did about 37 commercials over there. So it was like, maybe that's the the little motion camera is the one I should be in front of. So I came back to LA, and like every other person who gets off a bus in Los Angeles, and just started from scratch pretty much, except I did have, instead of getting a bartending job or waiting tables or, I did actually dig a lot of ditches and tar a lot of roofs when things were grim. But I was, I could do commercials. And the first audition that I got was for the Ford Probe. And I booked it. It got me into the union. All of a sudden, I had health insurance. I remember I went back to Europe one more time, and I came back, and my dad had given me hey, it's time for you to, get your own insurance, get your own car insurance, got to get your act together. I'm like, yeah, I'll figure it all out. And I came back to the house, house in Berkeley, and he's sitting there, and he's got all this huge booklet, and he's looking at it, and he's like, hey, get over here. I'm like, yeah. Do you know that you're in a union? I'm like, what? And he goes, you were in the Screen Actors Guild. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I did this I did a commercial that Ford one, but then I had to do this little thing in San Francisco, and it cost me money. It cost me $1,200. And he goes, idiot, you have better health insurance than the family that I get from the university. Like, you have a pension. If this works out, God help us all, you're actually not, you'll be able to retire. You won't, die a pauper. And I'm like, really? All right. Well, you see how it goes. And that's really kind of how I was able to sustain myself in Los Angeles while I studied acting. I then, going back to Berkeley, everyone I knew played music. Most of us were guitarists, and we all studied with Joe Satriani, there was a little guitar store on what's now Martin Luther King Boulevard and Rose, but it used to be Rose and Grove, secondhand guitar store, and one of the greatest guitarists in the history of the world taught guitar lessons, and so I spent all my grade school, high school years playing and studying, and so I ended up in a band of all things, backing my way into a band that got signed, and then that imploded right after we got signed, and I went back to acting, and then and I've been able to sort of maintain that ever since.
That's crazy. That's an awesome story. And also your Italian voice acting accent is
exactly. It's great. Whenever I get a role like that, I just do my Gianni Versace. Bello.
Oh, I mean that's such an awesome story to hear, and I think that's the cool thing about the Cal fan base. Everyone has their real unique story of what they did after they went to Berkeley. And another one right here. That's crazy. I'm
excited for this weekend. A lot of my friends who went on and got real jobs and were wildly successful. We're all going to be there on Saturday. And it's amazing. I have such a sense of pride for how wildly successful all my fraternity brothers are. It's I mean, granted, part of me always knew in the back of my mind that if my ridiculous career imploded, I could go beg one of them for a job. So part of me is like, yes, he sold his company to IBM. Yes, he just bought 7 buildings down in Silicon Valley. Yes, I mean, I always, in my mind, my fallback plan was to start Rolodexing the Alpha Delta alumni looking for a job. But, it's also like, man, I was, we all went to Berkeley at the same time, and then we all went out fearlessly into the world to sort of chase dreams and build companies, and to see so many of them be so successful is a real sense of pride for me, and also I think a real testament to the university and the kind of kids that it attracts, the kind of free thinkers and the kind of dreamers, and I don't know. It's just there's a different type of kid who goes to Cal, and it makes me real proud to be part of that lineage.
Man, I mean, I gotta ask, and I asked this to the NFL guys, and I asked this to Steven Anderson when I was talking to him about when he met Goff at the Super Bowl and stuff. But do you ever like meet other actors or people in the industry that have graduated from Cal? Is there a little bit of a special connection there when you like know that they went to Berkeley as well?
You know what? No, I know a couple of the guys have. One of the
Chris Pine.
Chris Evans, Chris Pine. Chris Pine went to Cal. I've done some charity work with Stephen Jenkins from Third Eye Blind. There's a couple like managers and agents and the smart people. Which I actually kind of got recruited. Part of me, there's a lot of being an actor is so feast or famine, and there were more than a few times I had agents and managers try and recruit me to come over to their side, to be an adult. And and sometimes I thought, wow, that would have been a pretty incredible life path too. So yeah, but not really so much. Like it's funny how there a lot of people, whereas like you swing a cat in Hollywood, you'll hit an SC guy or a UCLA guy. My attorney, who's one of my best friends, is a UCLA guy. But now there's a kind of a scarcity to it, and when you do meet them, like for instance, one of my favorite roles I've ever had was an episode of Castle, and I think whenever I think I have one of those things, best episodes of Castle, is one of the top 5 episodes. It's called The Final Frontier, and it was about a washed up sci-fi guy still trying to keep the dream alive at conventions, and there's a murder and yada yada yada. But it's really funny, and it was written by a Cal grad named Kate Sargent, and she and I have ever since then become the best of friends. We are now. She just in quarantine. Here's typical Cal. Most of us learned how to program our remotes during quarantine. Like we were just trying to like keep one foot in front of the other. Kate shot an entire television series on Zoom. I mean, like on Zoom. Like nobody ever could beat. We're all in our. I shot mine in my music studio. Most people were shooting it in their houses. She shot an entire, comedy series called Virtually Single, kind of about her life in quarantine. Yeah. A little meta, but and then I was kind of playing this sort of weird version of myself. She had never even heard about my band years, and I was in the band years were actually pretty unbelievable, and so we're now writing a feature film about it, and we're almost done. We're like right at the finish line. In fact, we bounced the script back and forth doing notes, and we're close. We're going to be able to take it out next year. I already have some big awesome studios that are interested in it, and so like the one Cal person that I did get to work with immediately, she and I became the best of friends and have been working together ever since. I also did like other episodes. She's been a producer on several big network TV shows. So there is one. There's a perfect example.
That's awesome. Those stories are really cool to hear, and hearing that in an industry that I have no idea whatsoever about is even crazier.
Well, thank you. But that was the funny thing is I was like, I just bought a truck in down in where was that? Was it on Solano? Was that old Ford dealership? I think so. Might have been Alameda. Anyway, I just bought a truck and just drove to Southern California. And my parents were like, "What are you gonna do?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm gonna crash at my modeling agent's house for a little bit. I guess trying to find a place to live." And she's like, "All right, well, call us if you need anything." And but that's what Berkeley prepares you for, right? Is going off into the world and not being safe and not needing a map and not needing someone else to give you, a playbook. You just go and you figure it out. And that's kind of what I did, for better or worse.
Well, we talked about the off-field stuff. If we come back to the football side of things, because, we love talking about football. One of our writers actually wanted me to ask you this. He wanted me to ask, what was it like following the 91 Citrus Bowl team? And then the disastrous fallout from the Bruce Snyder departure.
Oh, gosh.
And we'll start from there, or we'll work our way. But I thought that was a great starting point.
Oh, all right. So, in my opinion, that Citrus Bowl team is the best team of my lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah, I got to say, that era of watching Bruce build that program from the ashes, of the Homo era into no, where do you was it?
90.
No, he came after Cap. Sorry, I was thinking Tenford. And there were so many steps along the way. And I was at the Washington game where we were throwing into the end zone, much like I was at the USC 2004 game where we were throwing into the end zone, one catch away from beating the eventual national champs. So it was a remarkable season, maybe only marred by we lost to Stanford because, the letdown of, barely losing to Washington. And then, but then really rallying in the Citrus Bowl against a highly ranked Clemson. People thought we were going to get obliterated, and we went in and just destroyed them. It was such a special moment, and what happened with the it's been talked about endlessly, and you can look it up if you want to go see what the coulda, shoulda, woulda. But Bruce was going to build a dynasty. I mean, we had eventual Heisman Trophy winners for other teams, committed. It was going to be a remarkable run, and the new AD who came in was a liar, and he didn't take care of Bruce, and he didn't honor all the commitments the previous AD had said, and Bruce left for Arizona State and took them to the Rose Bowl. So it was. And you just watch the program sort of degrade from there, and it was really tough. Again, I always look at stuff that happens to the Cal football team as life lessons. What just happened to our team this year with the Arizona game. I mean, there's just lessons that you have to sort of like suck up and look big picture at. But it was an absolutely remarkable run, and there are a lot of amazing. We all have our favorite players, whether they're Hall of Famers like Tony Gonzalez. I love Marshawn Lynch so much because of the character he is. I couldn't be happier seeing Deshaun Jackson, running around in a Raider uniform right now. Aaron Rodgers, having him be basically the face of the NFL is fantastic. But to me, the Russell White story was just again so Cal. So Berkeley, if you don't know the story, he was related to Heisman Trophy winner Charles White, USC superstar. He was critically dyslexic, and nobody took care of him. Nobody looked after him, and he got into Cal on something called Prop 48, but which means that USC didn't want him because for him to get into college, he couldn't play his freshman year. He had to actually go to class. He had to pass. And so he had to give up a year eligibility, and he did that. And no one thought he would make it through. They said it was not worth it to bring the kid, he's not going to make it through. And Berkeley went all in, hands at the tutors, the professors. They diagnosed him, and then they got him through his freshman year, and he passed all his classes so he could play football. And his first game, it's against the Miami Hurricanes. I mean, when they were the scariest, biggest bad boys on the planet, and we kicked off to them. They drove right down the field and dancing all over the field, and we're just like, oh my God, we're going to lose by 600 points. And they kick off to us, and it goes 6 feet deep in the end zone, and oh great, here's this Russell White kid. Let's see what he can do. And he houses it. He houses it on Miami. His first time. If you put that in a script, they'd be like, that's nonsense. Take that out. To be able to witness a moment like that, and then to the way he ran the ball. I mean, he's our leading, all-time leading rusher, single season at least, if not, always, total yards. But he would, he also had another 1,000-yard back in the back. He was splitting carries. And there was a way that he would just shimmy off defenders and would run. And I don't know. So there was a real sort of emotional part of it too, as Cal built itself into this dynasty. Watching him obliterate SC, the team that abandoned him, it was really delicious. Yeah, and then here comes administrative politics, dirty deals, broken promises, business, and it was heartbreaking to watch what could have. And I think Bruce Schneider always, he said, he went on record, he always regretted leaving. He wished he hadn't. He wished he'd let cooler head prevails. He wished he had worked with the new administration and gotten what he deserved, and he deserved it by all means. So yeah, it's just one of those footnotes in Cal football history that for better or worse.
Well, you saw that. Then the Gilbertson era, and then we had that year of Mooch.
Yeah. I still remember I was at my apartment in Manhattan Beach, and on the LA news, I remember the volume wasn't even up. I just saw Cal football headline, like the Cal's on TV. I go, oh, that can't be good. Every time Cal's in a national news story, I'm like, oh, that's not good. What's happening?
Yeah, so we got the year of Mooch, and then we go in, I believe it's the Homo era after, and then it's like the new second rise with Tedford, and we just honored him. Where were you during the Tedford era? How hyped were you during all those years, when he first started off, and with Aaron and then Marshawn and all those guys?
Yeah, it was one of those things where you're always, waiting for the other shoe to fall. It's you're waiting for him to get poached. I think he played 2 games, and all of a sudden someone says, "Oh, Tedford's going to Michigan." You're like, "Oh, no." But what was amazing was Kyle Bowler was this incredible recruit that Holmo had brought in, and then had burned. This was before you could play a few games. Had burned his red shirt. He's supposed to be red shirting him, and threw him in garbage time in a game because he was just So he'd wasted a year of this kid's eligibility, and he was on a senior laden team, but that didn't really have any kind of. Holmo never coached again. He went and became an athletic director. And so that 2000, and there were some kids, and I think the program also has gone all over the place. There were some kids that had done some academic shenanigans who were not even really players and weren't even on the team anymore. And then we got put on, we couldn't play in a bowl game, but Tedford first year brings him to bowl eligibility. And it was like, hey, that's amazing. You're so sad that Bowler's leaving. And then he brings in, this unheralded, JC transfer named Aaron Rodgers. And I remember, it was such a great season with a huge upset of USC. And then I remember being at I was actually in Berkeley at Raleigh's for the Insight Bowl. I remember just sitting there going, man, I just love watching this team play. I don't know. I think we won on a final field goal. It was 50-49 or something crazy like that. But I remember just going I just love this team. I just love the energy. I'm so excited. I'm so happy for what's transpiring. And then that 2004 season comes, and again, I was at that game at the Coliseum. USC fans were terrible. Cal outplayed them on offense and defense. It was just Reggie Bush on special teams that really, but still we were driving down, but Chase Lyman blows his knee, and MacArthur has cramps, and we're out of receivers. If we just had receivers, Aaron Rodgers probably would have pumped that in, and we would have won. Unfortunately, the shameful, dishonest, pandering Mac Brown, created a national scandal, and it's an embarrassment, really. I hope he looks back on that, because Tedford should have taken us to the Rose Bowl. USC beat us fair and square. They were going to go dismantle Oklahoma in the BCS title game. We deserved to be at the Rose Bowl. Texas didn't need to be. They're going to go win the national title next year. But, greedy Mac Brown just had to do that. And I hope he always just realizes that, you took that from – and Tedford had class, unlike Mac Brown, and wouldn't pander to the media and wouldn't make the obvious case that Texas got blown out by Oklahoma. Why would – we were on the road and could have, should have, would have won. Outplayed SC. So we deserved to go to that 2004 Rose Bowl. We didn't. And The Texas Tech debacle didn't help, but those kids didn't even want to be there. We should have not even gone to the game, probably, the Holiday Bowl. And then, and after that, it became, USC. Well, USC went on probation for a long time and lost a lot of those titles they won because the way they ran the program. We ran our program different. The 2006 team probably is one that breaks my heart the most. I feel like that was maybe the best team that Ted. 2004 was amazing, but in 2006, USC was a 2-loss team. And if Deshaun Jackson's shoe is one size smaller, we don't get upset in Arizona and we go to the Rose Bowl. We win it. We win the Pac-12 outright. Pac-10 back then. So it's one of the things about being a long-suffering Cal fan. I mean, here I am. We're having this conversation, and I can literally just access. I can't remember what I had for breakfast, but I can remember Deshaun Jackson stepping out of bounds on a house on a touchdown, and us throwing a Longshore throwing an interception on the next play. So it just kind of is what it is.
Well, I guess we'll come full circle, and we'll end with just where we are right now. Like, what are your thoughts on the Wilcox era? Like, what he's been able to do after the 4 years of Sonny Dykes, and like where do you think this program is headed towards over the next few years?
I'll tell you something. Watching the Stanford game last weekend, the Oregon State game, or we were underdogs. I got the same feeling that I got when I watched that Inside Bowl. I loved watching this team play, and I loved watching this offense. And I think there's been a lot of people who are taking a very narrow view of this season and not understanding the devastating effects that COVID had on our program. And I mean, ours specifically. Like, besides the death penalty, like an SMU, we didn't have a 2020. We couldn't really practice. We kind of had these games. Oh, we're going to go play UCLA tomorrow. And, we're going to play Stanford, but we don't have our offensive line, or we don't have our defensive line, or, hey, everybody's here. Oh, we beat Oregon. Oh, but Washington, it was a mess. And for a football is probably the most difficult team sport on the planet. It takes so much practice. It takes so much time and experience and reps. And games are so important because then you watch the film of what happens. And, I was at the San Francisco Bowl in 2019, and it was a great season. We hadn't lost a game that Chase, played the whole game in. We were on a real upward trajectory. And we were bringing in, like if you look back at the big game, a couple weeks ago, a really good offense. And yet we don't get to do spring practice. We don't get to have a real fall. We don't get to have a whole season. And everybody else did. People are like, how do you lose to Nevada? Like, well, Nevada played 10 games last season. They had the same offense. They had some continuity, and they got to play. We didn't get to play. And so TCU, same thing. Close game like at, UW. It could have gone either way. It doesn't go our way. I mean, we've really been on our back foot. And then to, get the Arizona game taken away. Look, there's still a small part of me that hopes that we'll, if we, take care of business. SCs cannot be focused on this game, and they've got so much going on. Every player there is like, do I go to the transfer portal? Do I graduate early and get a job? Like, that just must be a mess up there, on campus. So, let's say I'm really excited about this game, a December Joe Roth Memorial game against USC. It couldn't be more fun. And, at 5-7 with our APR, which you got to give Coach Dykes a bit of credit for too. He really cleaned up the program when it had kind of fallen apart. Wilcox has continued that. Our kids are doing. They're great young men. They're working hard in class. They're working hard, and they had to overcome. How is it Cal's the only team that had to forfeit 2 games this season? We're being held to a different standard, and again, this is part of you've got to take a step back. As a Cal football fan, and these are life lessons that you're going to learn. But I was terrified of what happened. Yeah, by the way, maybe Lake doesn't lose his job up in Washington if his team doesn't come out and lose to Montana because they didn't have a season. COVID's had a lot of ramifications on West Coast football, big time. All the recruiting, all these recruits who left and went to the East Coast because they want to make sure they could play, and you can't blame them. But I was terrified that Washington was going to grab Wilcox. I'm still terrified that he is an amazing, amazing leader. He handles crises like the Arizona debacle. He's gritting his teeth. You can see the anger in his eye, but he's not going to say anything. He's not going to get out over his skis. He's not going to be some hothead jock coach like half the programs in this nation have. He's all class. He's smart. He's young. He's doing everything the right way. This is really unfair, and so I think every Cal fan, if you're mad about what transpired this season, fine. Write a check to the football program. Go to the AC store, UC store, and buy some Under Armour branded gear. Show up to the game on Saturday. Support the team, because this has nothing to do with coaching. This has to do with things that are so far beyond our control. And I think the program is in a great place. I think this Riley hire at USC is fantastic, because I think there's a bunch of kids who are going to be like, I don't want to fly across the country. I want to stay here. I'm from California. I want to play in front of my family. I want to go to the number one public university in the world. I want to lift weights with a 3-bridge view. That view? Are you kidding me? I mean, that alone. So Aaron Rodgers just built your locker room. You got your little, bear hibernating, capsules in there. Anyway, I think the program's in a great place. I'm really the COVID would be a fatality if something happens to Wilcox or we ended up in some sort of turmoil and trying to find a coach at this point. I really do. I love Troy Taylor. Maybe he's he's on deck, but right now, man, I just hope this all settles down and maybe we get one of those 5-7 gift bowls, because we shouldn't be 5-7. We should have that extra win. We should be bowl eligible. If we beat SC, gotta beat SC. But at that point, we should be in good shape.
There you have it, from a TV president, the insight, the state of the program. You got it right there.
Look at this, 50 minutes of Cal football. I think the cure for insomnia is here.
Well, thanks for coming on the pod, Ed. If you want, you're more than welcome to come back anytime. Of course, we'll call you up and ask if you want to come talk about if we, if we beat Notre Dame next year.
Yeah,
we're gonna need all the hype in the world.
Absolutely, I know. I'm really excited about that. Hey, is Auburn still on the schedule too?
I believe that's in 2 years. So the following year after Notre Dame.
Oh,
and then we got Florida after that. So
Yeah, do it. I love it. All that makes me excited. I love when we were playing Ohio State. I love when we played Tennessee. I mean, that 2007 Tennessee game was maybe one of the best evenings of college football I've ever seen. So I'm really proud of the athletic departments and reaching out and scheduling these big marquee games. And hey, go Bears!
Go Bears, baby! That's all that we can say.
Right.
Of course, if you didn't know, that's Ed Quinn, of course, the president on TV for Tyler Perry's The Oval. So go and make sure to watch. I believe season 3, 4.
3 is airing, 4's already in the can, and I'm hearing rumors we're about to fire up on season 5. So it's
let's do this.
Let's do this. Right. You talk about a businessman. That's a businessman right there.
All right. Well, thanks, Ed, and as always, go Bears.
Go Bears. Thanks, Rob.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.